The holding cell smelled of ionized air and alien disinfectant. Darian Voss sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor, back against the curved wall, eyes half closed. To any observer peering through the reinforced viewport, he looked almost bored. That was, perhaps, what unsettled Commander Zyrex the most. The Velhari officer stood outside the cell, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his carapace, his compound eyes cycling through their color spectrum, a biological tell that every Velhari tried to suppress and none ever managed. Right now, his eyes were cycling a deep, agitated amber. "The prisoner has not eaten," his subordinate, Ensign Turvak, reported quietly. "He has not slept." "He has not, Commander, he has been sitting in that exact position for 11 of your duty hours." Zyrex said nothing. Inside the cell, Darian Voss slowly opened one eye. It had started 3 cycles ago, when the humans' patrol shuttle had been intercepted near the contested shelf, that band of disputed space where Velhari jurisdiction and a dozen other territorial claims overlapped like a badly shuffled deck of cards. The human had been alone. Single-occupant scout vessel. No weapons signature on initial scan. Zyrex had personally authorized the intercept because the vessel had been drifting, no thrust, no transponder ping, no response to hails. A ghost ship. When his boarding team had cut through the airlock expecting to find a corpse, they'd found Darian Voss instead, sitting in the pilot's seat, eating something out of a silver pouch with a flat expression. "Took you long enough," the human had said. The boarding team, 6 of Zyrex's best, had restrained him. It had taken all 6. That was the first sign. "He asked for something called coffee again," Turvak said. "Ignore it. He's asked 14 times." Zyrex turned to look at his ensign. 14? "He keeps track, Commander." He announced the count each time. "This is request number 9. This is request number 12. He seems to find it." Turvak paused, searching for the word amusing. Zyrex looked back through the viewport. Darian Voss had both eyes open now. He was looking directly at the viewport. He raised 2 fingers, a gesture Zyrex's translation matrix rendered as casual greeting, and smiled. Zyrex did not smile back. Velhari did not smile. But his eyes pulsed orange. The interrogation happened on cycle 14. Zyrex entered the cell with 2 armed guards and a translation drone floating between them. The room was kept cold, Velhari metabolisms ran warm, and cold environments were considered psychologically oppressive to most species. Standard technique. Darian Voss had his sleeves rolled up. "Commander," the human said. His voice carried no tremor. "You finally came yourself. I'm honored." "You were found in restricted space," Zyrex said flatly. "You will explain your mission." "Survey work." Darian leaned back against the wall, completely relaxed. "Freelance. I was cataloging gravitational anomalies near the shelf margin. Perfectly legal under the Concordat Article 9, subsection 4. He paused. "You can look it up." Zyrex had already looked it up. The human was, technically, correct. This made things complicated. "You disabled your transponder. Faulty equipment. Filed for repair at way station draws 3 cycles before your people found me." He reached into his shirt pocket, both guards leveled weapons, and produced a small paper card, which he placed on the floor and slid toward Zyrex with 1 finger. "Maintenance receipt. Time-stamped." Zyrex stared at the card. "I've been on your ship for 2 weeks," Darian continued conversationally. "I've counted your guard rotations. Tracked the ventilation cycle. Identified 3 potential exit routes." He shrugged. "I'm not going to use them. I didn't do anything wrong and I'd rather leave legally, but I want you to understand that the only reason I'm still in this room is because I'm choosing to be." The guards shifted. Their weapons hummed louder. Darian didn't even glance at the weapons. That was the second sign. Word spread through the Veritha's fury the way rumors always do on warships, in whispers that grew louder with each retelling. The Deathworlder didn't flinch when Sergeant Crix pressed a plasma burner against his arm. He looked down at it and said, "That's warm." He asked one of the kitchen staff for something called hot sauce, and when told they didn't have it, he pulled a small bottle from his boot and seasoned his own meal. He has a scar on his jaw that he says came from a disagreement with a dog. Nobody knows what a dog is. The translation matrix offers, domesticated predator, kept willingly by humans in their homes. That last one made Ensign Turvac check the database 3 separate times. On Cycle 20, a junior officer named Pelrix, young, ambitious, not yet wise enough to know better, decided to demonstrate something in front of his peers. He entered the human cell under the pretense of delivering a meal. Then he used the word Deathworlder, Pelrix said, loading the term with the particular sneer young officers learned from old ones. Among Velhari, it was a slur. A label for creatures from hellish planets, evolutionarily warped by brutality, too violent and primitive for civilized space. Something to be contained. Pitted, perhaps. Never respected. Darien Voss looked up from his meal. Then he did something Pelrix had not expected. He smiled. Not the tight, controlled smile of someone absorbing an insult. A genuine smile. Warm. Almost proud. "Yeah," the human said. "That's me." Pelrix blinked. "It is an insult. Only if I let it be." Darien set down his meal and looked at the young officer with calm, steady eyes. "You want to know what Earth is like? My planet? The one that made me a Deathworlder?" He didn't wait for an answer. 70% of the surface is liquid that will kill you if you breathe it. The atmosphere is thin enough at altitude to stop your heart. The gravity will crush most species into the floor. We have animals that can swallow a Velhari whole, and we hunt them for sport. We have diseases that mutated alongside us for millions of years specifically to kill us, and we're still here. He picked his meal back up. We burned, froze, drowned, starved, tore each other apart for 10,000 years, and we still filled every continent. We didn't survive Earth because our world was gentle. He took a bite. We survived because we're not. Pelrix left without another word. He didn't sleep well that cycle. Commander Zyrex reviewed the security footage 4 times. He was still reviewing it when Turvac reported that legal verification had returned from the Concordat registry. The human's paperwork was clean. Every document authentic. Every timestamp confirmed. Darien Voss was to be released. Zyrex went to the cell himself to deliver the news. He found the human already standing, pack assembled, as though he'd known it was coming. "Your release has been authorized," Zyrex said. "Your vessel will be returned. You are free to continue your survey work within legal boundaries." "Thank you, Commander." Darien hefted his pack over one shoulder. Zyrex studied him for a moment. His eyes, usually so disciplined, cycled briefly through an unusual shade, something between blue and gold. "Curiosity." "You knew," Zyrex said. "From the beginning. That we had no legal grounds to hold you beyond processing." "Yes. And yet you stayed. Cooperated. Made no attempt to escalate or escape." "Also yes." "Why?" Darien Voss paused at the cell door and turned to look at the Velhari commander. For a moment, just a moment, something serious moved behind his eyes. "Because I didn't need to," he said simply. "I knew I was right. I knew the paperwork would clear. I knew the law was on my side." He tilted his head slightly. "The only people who need to threaten, Commander, the only people who panic, are people who aren't sure they're going to win." He walked out. Commander Zyrex stood alone in the empty cell for a long moment. He thought about a species that came from a world so violent it had been classified as uninhabitable for 94% of known life. A species that had taken that classification and turned it into identity. Not a wound. Not a shame. A credential. He thought about the word Deathworlder. He had used it as a category. A box. A warning label. The human had picked it up, dusted it off, and pinned it to his chest like a medal. Zyrex walked to the viewport and watched the scout vessel, small and battered, scorched along one side from some old encounter, pull away from the docking bay and arc smoothly out toward the shelf margin. He stood there for a long time. His eyes, when Turvac found him, were cycling a color the ensign had never seen from a commanding officer before. Something very close to respect. Far out along the shelf, in the quiet dark between contested stars, Darien Voss poured the last of his coffee, request number 15, finally granted by a nervous kitchen ensign on his way out, and set a new survey course. He was whistling. Something old. Something from Earth. Something that had survived.